Welcome to the Fire and Earth podcast with your hosts, Jason Mefford and Kathy Groover. Fire and Earth, giving you the keys to unlock your limitless potential.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Fire and Earth podcast. I'm your co-host, Jason Mefford.
And I'm Kathy Groover. And I was so tempted to start it just to mess you up.
We're having little antics that go on behind the scenes before we hit record.
We're having that. You go, no, you go, no, you go. No, go after you. So today we thought we're just going to do a little quick one. Maybe it's sort of an amuse-bouche for a longer episode. But I've had a lot of clients recently, and I've dealt with this myself. People who have sort of money issues. I don't mean like not enough money, but I mean like concepts about money or beliefs about money, that they don't deserve it, that they don't have enough. Maybe they were raised in a family to believe that people that had money were bad, or rich people were jerks, or da 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 da. So now, as these people get older and they want to be prosperous and abundant, which I think is a human right for all of us, whatever that looks like to you, they're having some trouble with accepting money or charging, how much to charge, and this sort of self-worth around money. So I thought we'd sort of tease that a little bit today.
Yeah, because it's funny. Money really, it is a big deal for most people. It has been for me. I still work through some of these things as well, because, not that I was told that rich people were bad necessarily, but kind of indirectly. And I mean, we struggled financially when I was a kid, for a while. And so that always kind of was ingrained in me to be frugal and, a lot of that kind of stuff. But I think it's, like you said, it's interesting too, that a lot of times we're dissonant in thinking about money in some ways, right? So where I'm going with this, or what I kind of thought about is, for some people, it's hard for them to accept money, right? It's like, well, if I do something for a friend, then I shouldn't accept money, right? And it's like, well, no, if that's what their job is, and it's like I'm doing taxes now for a few friends and stuff, because people keep asking me over and over and over again, right? And so it's like, okay, for a few people, I'll do this, right? And again, they're friends, so there's part of me who's like, oh, I don't really want to charge them that much. Right. And it's like, no, I kind of know what the going rates are out there, and I know I'm a hell of a lot better than a lot of the people who are out there because of my own experience with CPAs. And so it's like, so no, I mean, even though somebody's my friend, I've got to charge them. I've got to be willing to receive from them whatever the fair value is. And I think, that's one of those areas where people don't want to sometimes receive, but then on the flip side, we want everything for free from somebody else. And so it's like, you can't have this. And so I've started doing hey, if somebody wants to give me money, I'm going to accept it. Right. Because it's even that way where, you do something for somebody and they're like, oh, here's $100. Thank you for doing that for me, or something like that. You're like, oh, no. Right. And it's like, no, if somebody wants to give me money, I'm going to accept it. Because if the universe wants to give me money, I'm going to accept it.
Absolutely.
If you don't accept it from certain people, then how do you expect to get it from other people?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. When I was I remember one of my first experiences with money. There's two that pop into my head. One of them was some neighbors up around the corner. I lived in this little dead end street in a little suburb of Pittsburgh called Penn Hills. And the neighbor around the corner had a kid named Christopher. This kid was so adorable. And they said, would you, I don't know if you've ever done this, would you be willing to babysit? And I said, oh my God, I'd love that. I love this kid. And they said, great, Friday night from like 6 o'clock to 9. I said, that's great. I'll come up. I'll, clear it with my parents and I'll come up. So I go home and I say to my dad, hey, the people up the street, Christopher's parents, they want me to babysit on Friday from 6 to 8 or 6 to 9. And he goes, okay, that's great. You'll be right around the corner. What are they going to pay you? And I said, oh, I don't know. And he goes, well, how much did you ask for? And I said, well, I didn't ask for anything. And he goes, then how do they know they're going to pay you? And I said, well, they said something about paying me. And he goes, but what are they going to pay you? And I said, well, I don't know. I guess they'll pay. I don't know what to charge. I don't know what people charge for baby. I was like 12, 10 or what. I don't know what people charge. And he goes, well, you really need to ask them what they're paying you. And that was such an uncomfortable conversation to me. And I just sort of had this thing of, well, people will just be fair and they'll give me what the going rate is. And then I had another family and they paid me fine, whatever the hell we charged back then in the 70s or 80s to, babysit. And then another family, I kind of did the same thing. I'm like, oh, I'm sure they'll pay me enough. And they gave me like, $5 for 6 hours or something like that. They didn't pay me fairly. And my dad's like, you need to talk to some friends and figure out what they charge. There's no internet, of course. But I was just always so uncomfortable with valuing my time and valuing myself of how to charge for things. So that was the one thing that set me up for a lifetime of, I don't know what to charge people and I hate asking for money. The second thing was, I'm an only child. I was not spoiled in that we didn't have tons of money. I was given a lot because I was the only kid. I was given all the attention, but I can't say I'm spoiled in a way that I see a lot of people now being spoiled. And I came home from Domino's Pizza one day. I was in college at this point. I worked there. And I said to my dad, hey, I'm heading to the mall. And he goes, okay, great. I said, yeah, I want to get some jeans for school. And he goes, great. And I stood there kind of like waiting because he normally would give me money. And I went, so do I give me some money for the jeans? And he goes, didn't you just come home from work? And I went, oh. I knew it was going to happen. I knew someday I would be cut off. I didn't know it was going to be that day. And one of the things he instilled in me, he goes, how much are these jeans that you want to buy? Do you need jeans, first of all? And I said, he goes, how much are these jeans? And I said, oh, they're $30. And he goes, okay, I encourage you to figure out how many hours you have to work at Domino's Pizza to afford those jeans. He did the same thing with boots. I wanted these boots. They were so great. And it turned out I had to work like for 2 full weeks to be able to afford these boots. And he said, you have to decide if that's worth it. You have to decide if the value of that hour and those 2 weeks of work is worth those boots. And I busted my ass and I bought the boots and I wore them once because they were so fucking uncomfortable. But that was the I still think about things. Now I'm a little more than I was at Domino's Pizza. But it's like, how many hours do I have to work to afford that thing? And is that worth it to me? So those were my 2 little dad money lessons.
Well, and I love your dad because he just kind of right in on it, right? I mean, it's and I actually used to do the same thing too when I was a teenager, because I had a job. I mean, really, since the time I was 8, I've been working and earning my own money. And so, but I remember those times like that where it'd be like, okay, it's $4 for lunch today or something as a teenager in high school, right? And so I would look at that and say, well, I earn $4 an hour, so that's effectively, I'm at the time, using my lunch cost me an hour of my time. And I think that's, again, not that we want to, from an abundance prosperity perspective, that we want to put things in that, like if I work an hour, I should get, because that's not necessarily how everything works. But what it does do is it allows us to be more frugal and actually kind of responsible with the money that we have. And I think this is one too. I know we want to keep this a short episode today, but I see a lot of people who want to get rich from an abundance and prosperity standpoint. What they really want is they want to be rich. They want to have a lot of money. But there's a big difference between being rich and being wealthy. And the problem is rich people come and go every single day. And so I've watched people who have made millions of dollars, but they've increased their lifestyle so that they're paying, they're still living on more than they actually make, even though they're making millions of dollars. Yeah. I mean, I remember the story of, Michael Jackson couldn't afford Neverland Ranch anymore or something like that. And it's like, it cost him something like $30 million a month to run his house or something. It was some ungodly number.
Because he had a zoo.
He had a zoo, and like he had, I don't know, hundreds of people working for him just to clean his house and take care of the property. So, but wealth is more about the mindset, and it's about living on less than you make and making do with and adapting with what you have. I mean, some of the wealthiest people that I've ever met that had all the toys and everything else didn't make that much money, but
Yeah.
they didn't have debt. They paid for everything in cash.
Yeah.
They didn't buy a new car every 3 years,
Right.
right? And so there's a lot of these traps that people can fall into, that they think they're being abundant, being prosperous, but they still have a really bad relationship with money.
Yes.
If you're spending your money as fast as you're making it, you don't really respect money.
It's a respect thing. And oh God, there was a woman, what was her name? She still might be on TV. She had really short cropped, like gray hair, and she was this money guru. Oh my God, I'm totally
Talking
blanking on her.
Susie Orman?
Yes, I loved Susie Orman because
Yeah.
she was like no nonsense and like just cut the shit. And also, my call got canceled, so we don't have to cut it short. But yeah, I remember listening to her, and she's like, one of the first things I do when someone comes to my office for financial advice is I ask to see their wallet. She said, is your money shoved in your purse? Is it with a rubber band? Is it paperclip? Are you even like respecting the money? She said, as silly as it sounds, I make sure they all face the right way. I make sure they're all flat and like pretty. They're good. They go in order. And she said that right off the bat, from an energetic perspective, means you respect that thing that you're telling me you want more of. If you disrespect it, um, why would you get more of it? And I just thought that was that always stood out to me as something she said that was like kind of in the esoteric. I mean, she was a very practical person, but that was this sort of esoteric just concept of respecting the money, and I always found that to be really fascinating.
Well, it is, and it's your money. You worked for it. You fought to earn that money effectively. Let's use kind of some words that are, to make a point.
Yep.
Right? You fought blood, sweat, and tears to make that money. So why do you want to give it away so easily? And again, I'm not talking about hoarding, and
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
a miser and any of that kind of stuff, but so that we are respectful and that we only use what we need. I mean,
Yeah.
this is another thing too, is the environmentally conscious part of me is really coming out a lot more
Mm.
as I get older. And in America, we are a consumer driven economy and culture.
Yeah.
And so, the problem is, for most people, you work your ass off to make some money. The government takes half your money. You don't even realize it, but they take about half of it before you even realize it.
Yeah.
And then you spend the rest of it on all these things that people tell you and have marketed to you that you need to have, that you don't actually need to have,
Yep. To
right?
make you happy.
To make you happy. I mean, we all have. I mean, when I moved, I got rid of a lot of clothes. I still have quite a few clothes, but I don't wear them.
Right.
It's like, I mean, think about how people lived 100 years, 150 years ago. 3, 4 pairs of clothes, right?
Yep.
You had your work, maybe 2 work things, and going out on the town, right? And, again, do we need that much? Do we need those boots that we're only going to wear one time? Right. And I'm
I
guilty of the
wanted to
same
wear them
thing.
more
I know
because they hurt my feet.
I'm guilty of the same thing. I
Yeah.
mean, I still have some clothes in the closet with the new tags on them. I've never actually even worn them.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but now I'm being more conscious and being more respectful of my money.
Yep.
And also I see it as being respectful of, the earth,
Yeah.
because
Oh,
it's
totally.
like we don't need to consume as much as we have been. And we don't think about it, but let's just, I've got a suit jacket, sports jacket in there that I bought that was on sale. It's a good deal, but I haven't worn it yet. Right. And I bought it 2+ years ago, probably.
Mhm.
Right. And again, but my buying that when I didn't need it, it was nice. It was a good value. So I got it. It was lighter weight. I thought, hey, if I end up wearing a sports jacket, it'd be great.
Yeah.
But if I start to think about all that went into making that and bringing it to the store, right? Because I chose to buy it, I'm buying into or supporting all of the things that went into making that jacket.
Hmm.
Which again goes all the way back to, I mean, I'm sure that there was probably some little kid,
Mm,
dyeing fabric or doing something. I mean, that, when you start to think about it, uh, it makes me want to spend less,
yeah,
especially when a lot of the things that we're being sold to are things that actually harm us.
yeah,
But we're
yeah.
told they're good for us, right?
Right. Well, and similar to that, we're fed this you know, soup of consumerism of this will make you happy. The next thing will make you happy. The next toy will make you happy. The next, it's more and more and more. If the external things were truly going to make us happy, we would all still be playing with the very first toy we ever got. We would never need another thing, right? If that was true, I would be pulling around the little Snoopy dog with a little click, click, click thing on the back leg because I loved that toy so much. I would never need anything else materialistically if those external things truly made us happy.
Mhm.
They might make us happy in the short term, or they represent something to us. I got my engagement ring. It's the first time of the marriages I've had where I've had my own ring, like that I picked out that was new for me, and it means so much to me, and it was so special that I got this. And we didn't get some big expensive thing, but it was something that I loved that represents the love and the connection that I have with my partner. That means a lot to me. Could I have survived without it? Absolutely. I didn't need it, but it was something that meant something to me. Um,
Mm.
and then going back to something about the valuing, when I first started my massage practice, and it goes back to kind of the babysitting thing, I guess, I was like, how do I charge for this? And so I kind of did a little bit of research. This was so long ago, but I was like, okay, $1 a minute, that seems reasonable. So I was charging $60 an hour for massage. Eventually, now I had an office. I've got to raise my rates. Okay, now it's $70. Oh no, everyone's going to leave. $70 is so much. And I remember I had gotten to $75 for an hour, and I got a call from another massage therapist in town. And he said, hey, I heard really great things about you. I'm going to be in Hawaii for about 6 weeks. I know I'm going to have calls from clients. You seem to do similar work to me. Would you be okay if I referred clients to you? He goes, I don't need anything from it. I don't need a cut of it. I just want to make sure my clients are taken care of. He goes, and frankly, if they like you better, they can stay with you. Yeah, whatever. I just want to make sure my clients are taken care of. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. And I said, no, I'd really appreciate that. I said, I'll let you know if anybody calls. And he goes, yeah. He goes, oh, just so I know, what do you charge? And I saw it was $75 an hour. And he's quiet for a second, and he goes, maybe you're not that good. And I said, excuse me? And he goes, I charge $120 an hour. If you were good, you'd be charging $120 an hour. And my first thought was, what a dick. My second thought was, well, I'm not comfortable with that yet. Like, could I charge 120? I don't know, maybe, but I'm seeing teachers and students and artists, and I'm not catering to the mega wealthy in Santa Barbara, which he was. Well, now here we are, fast forward 15 years later, I'm charging $120 an hour. Now I'm comfortable with it. I wasn't back then. And I had to go with what was comfortable in my being. And for him to equate, oh, you must not be that good because you're not charging what I'm charging, I found that so offensive. It just seems so limited thinking and just so like judgy about the whole thing. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, no, I kind of agree because it's also, there's and this is why money it's just energy, everybody. It just allows us, it's a fungible means of exchange. But we place so much attention on it, but it's, life is not about making money. That's a side business. That's not why
Mhm.
we're here.
Yeah.
But so much of the time we spend our whole life obsessing about it and wanting it and working for it. And there is the side of, getting your psyche to where you feel comfortable that you're worth that much,
Yeah.
right? Because again, that's a self-love, a self-care, self-esteem kind of a thing that we all have to work through. It's like, can I really charge that much per hour?
Yeah.
But you know what? We don't always have to charge everybody the same amount either. And I've really gotten, in one of my business, my online training business, I took a different strategy starting this year, actually, of, you know, I sell training to people all over the world. I mean, some
Mhm.
of these people live in very poor countries in Africa and other places like that. A lot of people are here in the US, Western Europe, Middle East. I mean, all over the world, Asia, right?
Mhm.
Because literally I have customers everywhere.
Wow.
And I used to we'd give these big sales, like, site-wide sale, 25% off or whatever for the next
Mhm.
week, right? And what I started realizing was that a lot of the people who had means would wait for a sale, but they didn't really need the sale. And the people who were in some of these other countries would wait because they didn't have the money and they needed the sale.
Yep.
And so I looked at it and I said, how can we do this different? Because I want to help people who need
Mhm.
help, but the people who don't really need help, I don't really need to help them. And in a way, those people are helping to uh, subsidize.
Yep.
It's not the right word, but kind of
Yeah, sure.
my being able to help other people. And so, when I look at it, and it's like, if somebody here in the U.S. is making $100,000 or $150,000 a year, I don't really need to give them a discount on $100 course. But if somebody's living in Africa and their salary is the equivalent of 15,000 US dollars, I'd like to give them a little break,
Yep.
right? And so it's okay to do that. I have different, even when I bill by the hour, I have different rates for different things.
Yeah.
And the big corporate clients, they pay me full rates.
Yeah.
Other people, don't, but it's again, it's my choice as to what I do, because I'm not, well, I hope that I've moved away from the greed aspect of money and that I'm comfortable with what I have.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, that's,
Yeah.
I think you can charge, like you said, you're helping artists and teachers and some of the people who don't have as much money.
Yep.
So there's nothing wrong with you and has nothing to do with the value that you provide
Right.
if you charge them a little bit less.
Yep.
If the, millionaires from Carpinteria are coming down, or whatever, it's like, yeah, you're going to pay $300 an hour, right? Because you
Right.
can afford it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. When I was still living in LA, I worked at a law firm and I was about to get on a plane to go back to Pittsburgh and get married. And I went to the bathroom. I sat down in my chair and my neck went out to the point where I couldn't turn my head. And I was literally leaving in like 2 hours to go get married. And this should have been a sign. But I didn't have a chiropractor. I didn't have a car because I was going to be picked up by my then fiance and taken straight to the airport to go do this trip. And I'm panicking, right? Like I literally can't turn my head. I'm in so much pain. So I open the phone book and I'm like, shit, who is close by? And there's a very happy, smiling picture of this chiropractor, like 3 blocks from my office in Beverly Hills. I'm like, oh, this is going to cost me a fortune. Oh my God. So I tell my office, I'm like, I gotta go. I walk 3 blocks, 3 long blocks in Beverly Hills
Yeah,
to
those
get
are
to
big
this guy.
blocks.
3 blocks to the car.
Yeah.
I called. He said, I'm supposed to close, but I'll see you. I'm like, oh my God, great. So I walk in. I'm the only one there. No receptionist, no nothing, just me and him. And I'm thinking, I really hope this guy isn't a psychopath rapist because, like, and I'm like, how I couldn't turn my head. And he does this amazing adjustment. He puts ice, he does E-stem, he completely takes care of me. And we get to finish. I get another appointment for when we're going to be back. And I said, what do I owe you? And he said, $25. And I went, what? He said, $25. And I said, you stayed after you were supposed to be closed. You did an adjustment. You gave me ice. You gave me E-stem. You gave me ultrasound. I find it hard to believe that your rate is $25. And he said, can I ask you a question? And I said, yeah. He goes, what do you do for a living? And I said, well, I'm an actress. I said, okay, actually, I'm a receptionist. He goes, okay, high paying? I went, no. He goes, do you have health insurance? And I said, no. He said, didn't you tell me you're getting on a plane in like 2 hours to go get married? And I said, yeah. And he goes, as long as you see me, your rate will be $25. When you have a high paying job, we'll raise it. When you have insurance, I'll bill it. But I see clients that pay me hundreds of dollars a week, which, like you just said, subsidizes the fact that I'm charging you $25. He said, and I'm going to drive you back to your office because there's no way I'm letting you walk after this. Put me in his car and drove me back to my office so that I could go off and get I mean, it was the most beautiful exchange, and he was so sincere with it. And I sent so many people to him. And when I had a car accident, I went through him, so he got the insurance stuff. And it's like it ended up being this incredible relationship. I don't even remember it was this really long, complicated name, which I don't even remember. But it's like I was always so grateful for him, and I was always so. I've had clients that I've done that for, where it's like, look, I have clients that I see every week that pay me a lot of money. I can see you for $50 because I know you need this and you can't afford it. So it's about honoring money, right, and looking at it as an energy exchange, right? It's just purely an exchange of that not compatibility. There's some word I'm looking for it, that's sort of like synergistic exchange, right, of just stuff. And being kind about it and respecting it, I think, is so important. So yeah, that just kind of reminded me of what that chiropractor did for me.
No, and that's I think too, and again, we can talk about this a long time, but money is such a complicated thing, and when we focus on money, then things go to shit in our lives. I don't care who you are. Some of the most miserable people that I know have millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Yep.
Money doesn't make you happy, right? And there's scientific proof behind that as well too, that once you get to kind of a basic subsistence of life, the incremental amount that you make after that doesn't really add to your happiness. In fact, when you get to a certain point, it's almost depletive.
Yep.
At that point, because of a lot of the other stuff that goes on, right? But so if you can quit being driven by money and manage your money well, right, so that you're not, I mean, if everything that you make is going to pay the government and your utilities and everything else, and you have $50 a week to buy food afterwards, I can guarantee you're going to be pretty miserable, because you're always going to be under that constant stress.
Yep.
But if you can start looking at what can we get by without, what do I not really need, right? Can we change our perspective on what's really important? As a teenager, I used to say I wanted a Porsche or Ferrari, and I kept dreaming about them. I had pictures up on my wall and everything else. And I remember my mom telling me, she's like, I hope that when you have enough money to buy those, that instead you'll look at it of, is that really the best use of my money? Right. So I'm just making up numbers, right, that she was trying to teach me. It's you can go buy a $200,000 car, or you could go buy a $50,000 car. And what good could you do with 150? Well, I could give part of that to charity. I could save part of it, right? I mean, I don't have to spend all $200,000, but what are some ways that I could do that better? And I think finally, now that I'm middle-aged, I'm starting to understand better what my mom was trying to teach me.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Those lessons come later. Yeah, the same thing with my dad.
Of just kind of curbing our desires so that we're not in that consumerism mousetrap, because it's just.
Well, and also those things that we dreamt of as a kid that we thought like successful adults did, it doesn't become that's a kid ideal, right? That's not necessarily what we want to do when we're actually adults with that money. So, oh my God, we could talk about this all day. Okay, we should go.
All right.
All right, we should go. All right, I'm Kathy Gruber. I can be reached at kathygruber.coach.
And I'm Jason Mefford. I can be reached at jasonmefford.com. So go out, have a great week. Think about your money in a different way, and we'll be, I'm sure, talking about it a little bit more. But have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Fire and Earth Podcast. See ya.